to Freedom, a Buddhist dialogue in the modern context.
Welcome to our program, Paths to Freedom, this Boya Day. And today's discussion on Paths to Freedom would be on natural happiness in a Buddhist point of view. So to do the honors, we have with us Venerable Professor Miriswate Vimalanyana Thera, Professor and Head, Department of Buddhist Culture, Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies, University of California. We are honored to have you here with us, Venerable Thera.
Thank you very much.
And today's topic, as I mentioned, would be on natural happiness in a Buddhist point of view. So my first question to you, Venerable Thera, would be, what exactly is natural happiness?
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sharifa, thank you very much for inviting me again to this program. Now, happiness is an interesting area of study and a topic.
And everybody wants to be happy.
Everyone wants to be happy, Sharifa. You are correct. So, and in Buddhism also, this is a very important concept. Now, as you said, now everybody wants to be happy. Now, this is our, the basic knowledge that we have about, the intention of the people. And the Buddha also says that sukha kamani bhutani. Bhutani means beings. Sukha kamani, hankering, desirous of happiness. So, the basic, the preliminary intention of the beings is happiness. And in one context, it is said that santutti paramandara. There are two terms in Buddhism to signify happiness. One is sukha, the same meaning, happiness, and there is another one, santutti. Santutti is also happiness. There is slight difference, but almost the same meaning. So, santutti paramandanam, the greatest wealth that we are having is the happiness. So, with this understanding, we can understand that this is a very important area. Now, when you are talking about natural happiness, this becomes a bit technical, Sharifa, because now the concept is not coming from Buddhism, because the natural happiness is an idea coming from modern psychology. Now, even psychology, the modern psychology is also talking about happiness. Now, psychology for many years was concentrated with the mental illnesses and mental kind of suffering of the people, but for last 60 years or so, psychology has been interested in talking about the human progress, achievements, and basically happiness. So, now very recently there was this the demarcation of two types of happiness. One is natural happiness, as I said. The other one is synthetic happiness. I am not going to talk about this concept, but this as a beginning I would like to talk a little bit about natural happiness. The natural happiness is the happiness that we derive out of our the sensuous objects, Sharifa. For example, whether it be psychology or Buddhism, now we are talking about sensuous object, the sensory object, that the kind of objects that flow into us through our senses. Now, foods through the tongue, and the sounds through the ear, like that. So, in Buddhism they are called aramana. So, in psychology, whatever happiness that we can derive out of these sensuous objects, the things that we are eating, the comfortable touch, and and then the beautiful sounds and all that, that is what we call natural happiness. Actually, in Buddhism also it is very much like natural, but in Buddhism you can call it common type of happiness, because you cannot stop the sensory experience in Buddhism, Sharifa. That is continuous and unstoppable and uncontrollable. Now, influx of the sense objects into the psychophysical world, especially the psychological world of the being, is unstoppable and uncontrollable. So, we can say that it is a the common type of happiness. In psychology it is called natural happiness. Then what is the synthetic happiness in psychology? Synthetic happiness means, now Sharifa, what we are doing is to maximize these happy objects, now desirable objects. We need for us to be happy, we need desirable objects. So, now our purpose is to maximize the number of objects that you have. We need a good house, it is a maximization, right. A big car if you want, that is a kind of maximization, and the number of children that we are having, even all that, I mean, that is also a kind of I mean, that is a kind of maximum. So, we are trying always to maximize the number of objects which are sort of which gives us happiness. So, but when we do not have that, we suffer, right. So, now synthetic happiness in psychology means when we do not have things, still we manage to happy. I mean, we synthesize whatever we have now, then we are try to be satisfied with whatever we have. So, this is what psychology teaches, the very latest psychology, the positive psychology teaches. But from the Buddhist point of view, it is very much like even the synthetic happiness is also kind of natural happiness. Okay, this is, I mean, so for me, the natural happiness is psychology is like a common type of happiness, and we in Buddhism have a natural happiness which is not the happiness in psychology. So, this natural happiness for me is a very inner happiness which is not explicit, but very much implicit with this. So, this is the difference. So, I do not know whether Sharifa you got it. So, natural, I mean, the natural happiness that I understand in Buddhism is a very hidden, inner, implicit happy experience which we need to make emerge.
Exactly. And how and what is the way to natural happiness in Buddhism, Venerable Thera?
Yeah, now that is very interesting, and that is a very difficult thing for someone to explain, Sharifa, because that is associated with the profound teaching in Buddhism. But if I try to explain this, now the human beings are not physicalistic objects, right. Now we are not just physical, we have a physical side as well as a psychological side. The psychological side is the most the aspect that we are very much concerned with,
And
that
it's
we are talking
vulnerable.
about inner culture, the psychological development, the development of psychology, the moral development. So, all these things are related to our psychological aspect. Now, there is an important teaching in Buddhism, Sharifa, that is our innate nature. Now, we are basically, we are very different. You are different from me psychologically, and I am different from you basically, I mean, as we generally understand. But and also our moral status are also very different. I mean, my kind of idea and my way of thinking and my way of following morality is different from that of yours. So, I mean, these are, according to Buddhism, I mean, adventitious. So, all our decline and growth of our personality, now growth and decline are taking place, that is, they are taking place. But I mean, all this, if you are taking this decline, this declining is taking place because of some external factors. I mean, it could be, that is external experience. Now, we are exposed to the external world, we are seeing things, we are experiencing things, basically this experience, the experience that we are having, the kind of experience that we are having can change our innate nature. So, therefore, we basically explain this. Now, our moral decline is because of external factors, so adventitious factors, but our innate nature is kind of illuminating and it is refined very much, it is very beautiful. So, the innermost nature of us, of me, is illuminating, and it is the same nature that you are having. So, that illuminating nature, that refined nature, the pure nature is defiled by the external factors, that is the adventitious factors. So, then everybody has a kind of potential to be happy with what you are having or with what is happening to you, even though, I mean, even though you are facing a kind of devastation, still there is a possibility for you to be happy. But we do not understand this. We do not understand this because our innate nature is very much implicit. Very hardly we concentrate on our the innate nature. now if you Sharifa, if you concentrate something like, now in Buddhism we have different types of meditations, right? We have different techniques. So, if you concentrate into yourself in terms of applying, using this one or the other meditative technique, you will find that there is a kind of very soothing experience, that is a very beautiful experience. So, that kind of even though it is very short period of experience, still then you can have an understanding about how this the inner nature, the possibility or your potential to sort of to experience this inner beautiful nature. So, therefore, Buddha says that actually, I mean, our innate, the innermost nature is illuminating and beautiful, but that is defiled by the external factors. So, therefore, so we need some kind of mental training in order to understand or realize that illuminating true nature, the innermost nature of us. That is how it is explained. Maybe we can talk about this.
Exactly. Although the term happiness seems very simple, and it's easy to say, please be happy, don't be sad, don't worry, be happy. Those are like very simple quotes we always mention on a day-to-day basis, and we always ask the people to be positive. But this seems to be quite a task. It's easier said than done, isn't it?
In a way, yeah. Now there is a difficulty for someone, Sharifa, because the thing is that I cannot tell you, it is difficult, but what I can tell you is that it is difficult to understand the potential. Now, because everybody has some sort of potential for that, to be pleased internally, internally, but still what is difficult is to understand that potential and to understand the need for that one, because that is what we need, that is what sort of I mean the capacity which can transform ourselves, but we hardly understand that, we hardly sort of look into that. So, that is the difficulty that we are having, not the difficulty, not the inability of us.
But it's just the difficulty.
It's a kind of difficulty.
And let's highlight the importance of natural happiness. Why we need it? Why is it important?
Yeah. Now, Sharifa, you know that life is unpredictable. Anything can happen. What we cannot predict what will happen next day, right? So, it is very necessary for the person to maintain a very balanced kind of psychology. Now, I would like to tell you, Sharifa, that in Buddhism we need a kind of sort of concentration. Now, in our day-to-day life, we are sort of overwhelmed by so many experiences, right? At one time they could be very healthy and pleasant, but at one time they could be very unbearable and unpleasant. Now, if we are capable enough and if we are skillful, now we can understand that there is a possible way, there is another way that we can be happy about, and we can sort of bear whatever happening around us. Now, Sharifa, as I told you earlier, now our basic belief is that, and the basic belief of the society is that we need sort of material things to be happy. Okay, so that is the basic understanding. Even the modern psychology talking about happiness, the whole happiness is based on these material things that we are having. But we do not understand that that we do not need. I mean, we need material things. Right? The practical life is totally based on these material things, because we need our foods, we need a place to live in, and we need children, and we need education, we need so many things, music, dramas, and all these things for our happiness. But the wrong thing that we the idea that we maintain is that these are the only things that we need to have for us to be happy. This is a wrong idea. So, I think the what Buddhism teaches is that you can absolutely reduce these things, okay. Even though you do not have a big stuff, still there is possibility for you to happy. Now, this is the importance of this teaching, is that then you have this question, okay, what is the kind of way that you can follow in order to be happy? Then the answer is that sort of going to your sort of inner nature, sort of the developing your inner culture. Then the person actually, the importance of this thing is that one thing is that when you lose something, as psychology says, when you lose something, you are not going to suffer very much. That is one thing. And the other thing is, actually the society is very much now, around you there are a lot of comforts, right. I mean, we have very limited, now everybody does not have the full capacity to achieve all the comforts that we see in outside, right. So, if you are going to suffer, I mean, this is going to be a sort of mental suffering, okay. So, therefore, the idea is that, okay, now we have to wait. I mean, the comforts are there, and the desire, hankering for all these comforts is not is not the solution for me, and I should think about my mental concentration, kind of mental composure, so and so forth. So, therefore, the person should have an ability to sort of balance his psychology in such a way that he is not going to suffer because of this enormous sensuous pleasures around him. So, that is a kind of balance, and he can reduce actually the kind of suffering that he might undergo. That is the other, the one aspect. The other aspect is actually, if you are capable of developing your inner culture, or sort of increasing the inner happiness, actually it is a pre-preparation for a person to reduce the possible suffering in the future, because you are mentally strong actually. So, the person who actually, for example, for a person who meditates, he has the psychological potential to overcome the most of the day to day sort of obstacles, okay. The psychological suffering and kind of unpleasant experiences. Even though you are exposed to some sort of unpleasant experience, if you are mentally strong actually, then you are capable of sort of maintaining your mental composure in such a way that you are not going to suffer. That is very necessary, because this is a revolution, Sharifa, because intention, the kind of attention, or the composed mind can make a revolution. Now, this is a kind of heritage. Now, day by day we are losing. Now, old Buddhist tradition, now in Buddhist teachings, there is a nice phrase. Now, one lay person comes and says Buddha that even Venerable Lord Buddha, even we the lay people also from time to time practice Satipatthana. Satipatthana means, Sharifa, as you know probably, Satipatthana means the basis, the basis for someone to develop his inner culture. So, in Buddhist tradition actually, whether it be a monk or whether it be a lay person, there was this tradition that everybody was interested in, and everybody was sort of familiar with the meditations and the Buddhist practices. But now it is very much like that we are sort of we are not familiar with that. we are not interested in that. But now what is happening, Sharifa, is actually in a Western world now has understood the significance of these practices. Now in Western world, the Buddhism is very much about meditation rather than these elaborated rituals. What they are doing is meditating, because meditation, that they have understood that the meditation is the practice which has the most potential to develop yourself and to overcome, as I said, all these adventitious kind of suffering which come externally. So therefore, I think what is important is that this is also a pre-preparation for the person to overcome whatever psychological issues that would come to him.
Exactly, and with the current technological era, we see many people finding happiness in different ways now. It's
yes.
not just about how it used to be. It
Right.
has, even this has evolved, and the way of thinking has also changed, Venerable Thera. So my last question would be, how can we strengthen natural happiness?
Yes, Sharifa, that's a very good question. Now in Buddhism, now one way of developing happiness is the morality, the moral basis. Now when you are talking about the Buddhist practice, there are two words in Buddhism which are so important, that is that they are, one is actually talking about a behavioral aspect, the other thing is the psychological aspect, that is vijja and charana. So in order to develop our inner nature, we have to have some kind of cognitive development. That is, what is the cognitive development that we have to develop? That is, we need to have some understanding about actually what the life is. So the possible kind of changes of life, possible kind of the kind of threats that we are having, like the corona pandemic that we are having now. So all kind of difficulties that we might confront with. So that is one aspect, and the possibility for the change of life, right? So that is one thing, and also the significance of developing the moral aspect. So as I told you in one of our previous discussions, the moral basis actually has the potential to develop person from one moment to another moment. Okay, this moment our morality, now we say in Buddhism we are developing our sankharas, the dispositions. Disposition means our innate nature, innate qualities. So the innate qualities that I am having has the capacity to change myself at the next moment. So this kind of change is taking place all the time. So that